Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Croley, Chief Medical Officer at Empire Medical Training. I'm here today to talk to you about masseter neurotox or masseter Botox, right? Why do we do this? So interesting, so fascinating, something that we do often in our advanced trainings, something that's commonly requested by our dental associates when they come in. So, our dentist, when they come and they want to learn neurotoxin, this is one of the things that we've customized for a class for them that we included in the Botox for dentists. It's a very common request that we get, whether you're a dentist, a PA, an MD, an RN. If you're in this aesthetic space, you're going to have patients ask you about treating their masseter with Botox. Now, there are several reasons that we may treat the masseter. And so I think, first of all, it's important to understand that this is a muscle of mastication, meaning that we use this muscle as part of chewing. But we have multiple muscles of mastication. This is only one of them. A bigger one and a large muscle of mastication is the temporalis. And so when people worry about treating the masseters and patients being unable to chew, I want to dispel that myth because we have other muscles that also are responsible for this. Now, patients that come into our practice, they may come in for a couple of indications. Very common and very popular for a while was facial slimming. And the way that we would achieve this with masseter neurotoxin is to treat this large muscle at the jawline with neurotoxin. And if we repeatedly treated that muscle and stopped using it, it would atrophy over time. Atrophy meaning shrink. And so basically, as the masseter shrinks, we get this nice, slimmer appearing lower face. But keep in mind, the masseter also provides bulk, provides structure. And so as we treated that and that muscle atrophied, we may have some problems with like skin sagging, skin laxity. And so it's something that we could combine with other treatments to try to mitigate that as we slim that lower face. Now, for our dentist in the group and for other providers that may be treating pain conditions, are things like bruxism or teeth grinding. This is the most common muscle that we treat for that bruxism, our teeth grinding. Now, to assess it and to treat this completely, we need to know the anatomy. I always say go back to your anatomy, understand your anatomy. So we'll observe the patient at rest. And so we're basically looking at the patient and we're looking like, let's look at this one here at rest, our first image. And we look at things like the bizygomatic and bigonial distance. So keeping this patient in mind, our bizygomatic distance is a distance here to here and our bigonial distance is the distance from here to here. In a very feminine appearing patient that has this kind of nice heart shaped face, this distance is going to be shorter than this. They'll have a wider mid face than they are a jawline. In males, we typically have that about the same. So females may come in and say, hey, can you help slim that lower face? They're trying to get that heart shaped appearance. So we look at them at rest and then we have them clench. And as they clench, we're going to palpate and feel the bulk of that muscle. We're going to watch them function. So clench, release, and palpate. So we get a good idea of the bulk of that muscle. What is that muscle size? We'll do some photographs, some before and after. Keep in mind, if we're trying to atrophy the muscle to slim the face, that will take months for them to see the result. If we're treating bruxism or teeth grinding, they'll see the results pretty quickly, just like traditional Botox, somewhere around 1 to 2 weeks. So when we look at this, we want to make sure that this is true masseter hypertrophy if we're trying to slim the face. So if we have the wrong diagnosis, so if there's like a really enlarged parotid gland, for instance, treating the masseter is not going to slim the lower face. Now, the reality is most patients have a pretty good understanding of masseter hypertrophy, and we rarely get them there with the wrong diagnosis, but they may not understand the process of facial slimming, and they're going to expect this to work in the same manner that their neurotoxin works in their forehead and everywhere else. They're going to expect you to give it, and a week later, their face appears slim. And so we do have to educate them a bit about this muscle is large, just like if my biceps were large. If I quit going to the gym, they're not going to shrink right away. But if I don't go to the gym for months, they're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's going to be harder for me to build them back up to the size that they were initially. Same thing with the masseter. If we dose it with neurotoxin and we quit chewing aggressively, quit clenching our teeth, it will shrink, but it will take months for that to occur. Now, this appears to be a young patient with very good skin quality. So probably if we shrink her masseter over many months, the skin is going to retract, the skin is going to tighten. She'll have a nice, still sharp jawline. If this was a patient who was 50s, 60s, maybe didn't have as good skin quality, has had weight loss, we're going to see that sagging. And so that's where we need to talk about this is what will occur as we decrease the size of that structure underneath. And let's do combination therapies, things like sculpture, hypervolute radius, radiofrequency microneedling, things to support that tissue. Now, when we map this out, really what we want to do is think about the muscles around the area that we're treating. So with our neurotoxin, we have to treat the right muscles. And so when we look at this, what we do is we draw a line from the tragus to the oral commissure, and then we mark the posterior and anterior borders of the masseter. And with these marks, we can now delineate that muscle. Now, keep in mind, we have the risorius, which is a little bit deeper here anteriorly. We have the zygomaticus major and minor that's going to be up above that if we go too high in the face. And so we want to make sure that we stay below that line. Now, the reality is if we look at this, the bulk of the muscle is down in this region. And so that's where we'll focus the bulk of our treatment, is where the bulk of the muscle mass lies. A very common error is to treat this superficially. This is a deeper muscle, so we need to treat this muscle where the bulk of the muscle occurs. Typically, I like to dose about 20 units in each masseter. Now, there are some providers who will go in and they do one injection point and they put the whole 20 units and let it diffuse throughout the muscle. I'm not personally a huge fan of that, especially because sometimes we'll get some strange movements where we get maybe like a little bulging, where we've affected some of the superficial fibers, but not the deep fibers throughout. And then when the patient clenches, that muscle will bulge. And so I personally like to divide this between about 3 injection points. And so the bulk of it lower, right on the jawline, but on the anterior surface. And then the rest of it up in this midpoint. I don't really go up to that line at all. If you have a male patient with a really prominent masseter, we could add 2 more injection points. So that is possible. And it's something that we might do in our male patients. Male are large masseter, even on a female. Okay, you can't read my writing anyway. I know it's terrible, right? I've got that my whole life. But it's fun to write on this board. We have all these nice educational tools here at Empire Medical Training to help you guys. So who is the right candidate for masseter neurotoxin? It's going to be the patients who have visible hypertrophy. So those are the very large, prominent masseter, those who complain of teeth grinding or jaw pain that's worse at night. So a lot of times patients will grind their teeth at night. Those who have a lower face width that's broader than their mid-face, especially females who want to narrow that. Talk to them about the realistic expectations, though. That's the main thing I can say, is set the expectation this will take months to see the result and that they will need to have repeated treatments. So keep in mind, if we stop this from moving and then 10 weeks later it starts to move again and they wait for another 3, 4, or 5 months, that muscle is going to recover. Let's go back to the bicep example. If we stop going to the gym, the bicep may shrink. But if we go back after 4 to 6 weeks, it's easier for us to rebuild that than if we don't go to the gym for 6 months. And so we don't want that masseter to rebuild and really hypertrophy again in the interim. So it's important for them to understand if facial slimming is the goal, they will need repeated treatments in a short succession. We want to pause, reframe, or refer the patients out if they have a lot of lower face heaviness. So if they have a lot of prominent jowling already, removing any volume at all there. So if we shrink the masseter at all, it's going to make the jowling worse. If they have any kind of baseline smile asymmetries or smile weaknesses that we really could impact or make worse, so if they've had some kind of Bell's palsy or something like that, we want to not necessarily avoid treating that patient, but this is where we say pause. We want to pause and look at what muscles are impacted that's causing that asymmetry, and will we be close to any muscles on the other side that may worsen that asymmetry. And then obviously any contraindications to the product itself, prior bad reactions, we would want to then basically redirect that patient to another treatment. Here's going to be some of the examples of photos. We obviously want photos with all the patients that we're treating. And so we want our before and after photos. We do like 5 standardized photos, so straight on, oblique from left and right. and 90 degrees left and right. I will also tell you for a special, especially for masseter hypertrophy and movement, I like animation photos. So have the patients clench as you're doing this. Most of us have the capability of doing some sort of video documentation, either in our EMR or in our HIPAA secure photo storage for our medical documentation. But really, we want to set them up to look at them months down the road and decide when our retreatment will be. Most of the time, it will be around 3 months is when we do our second treatment. And then around 6 months is where we will assess them again. And that's when I would expect to see the majority of their results. I hope this has helped. I look forward to seeing you at one of our in-person courses.